which means I see you. I see you, every part of you, and that's restorative justice.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is such a joy to be here. This has been a wonderful conference. My name is Ruthie Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of Chapels Incorporated. We are located here in the Austin community as well as East Garfield Park. I'm a lifelong West Sider. I'm proud to be. One of the things our organization does is we promote the use of restorative justice practices here on the West Side and throughout the city as well. And I would define restorative justice. It's said that the philosophy of restorative justice is relationships are the glue that holds our communities together. And we're all about building relationships. It's good to repair harm, but it's better to prevent it in the first place. So we're using restorative justice practices as a way for people to build relationships so that we can get along together and we can do what we can do. We were just in a session where we said that sometimes you don't have to call the police. As the community, we can help to solve some of our situations too. And that's all wrapped up in restorative justice.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Angelique Moore, and I'm the Executive Director of Westside Rising and the CEO of Phoenix Institute. And what we do is that we are boots on the ground for Westside communities. We are all about uplifting Westside communities and have been the trailblazers for Westside Pride, Westside Appreciation of Westside leaders, as well as leadership development and community organizing. I do this here, and I also do this overseas in other countries. Now, how I define, Lord have mercy, restorative justice. I've been doing this for many years, but what I'm finding is that exactly what she said is getting down to restorative justice is not just repair and restore, but it's deeper than that. It's about looking at the systems that allow us to come to a state where there's inequitable access to resources, inequitable, disproportionate profiling of people. When we start talking about restorative justice, it's about reparations. Ooh, sometimes that word is like a taboo. How many in here have experienced harm or injustice by anybody, by your friends, anybody? Raise your hands, right? You restore. Did they provide reparations? How many people feel like they received reparations from the harm they received? So when harm is caused in any way, shape, or form, it's not just repairing, it's digging deep to see where did that source or that inclination, that practice, that behavior to cause the harm, where did it come from? How do that person and us together in building relationships, building communities, building individuals, how do we begin to do reparations for one another? This is some long-term stuff. This is some deep and wide things. So restorative justice is just that. You've got to repair, restore, and have justice all together. And that's a part of reparations.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Arewa Najim Ikua, formerly Karen Winters. I am District Councilwoman for the 15th Police District, and I'm also a community organizer at Austin Coming Together, and one of the task force I oversee is our restorative justice. And I am also a lifelong Austin resident. I think restorative justice has been eloquently defined here, but I just want to say that thinking back over my life, restorative justice started in my family, in my community, when I was a little girl. And I don't know, like, maybe some of y'all, what are we, Gen Zs? When there was an incident, when there was a fight, you had a fight with your cousin or your neighbor, and somebody found out that you had a fight. Some adult got you and that other child, brought you and that child together. They wanted to hear from both sides. They wanted to know what happened. And when they heard what happened, they said, okay, now you apologize. That was restoration. That was someone being made whole. And that's where restorative justice, that's how I'm defining it, right? And that's where and how it started for me. It's something that you have to embody. I don't care how many trainings you go through. If you don't have some compassion, if you don't have some love, if you don't have to care about somebody outside of yourself, all the training you're going to get is not going to make you a good an effective restorative justice practitioner. Something it has to be something embodied inside of you already that makes you want to do the work that you do for people outside of yourself. So that's how I define restorative justice.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Yeah, give some applause. Come on with it. Yes. Thank you. It reminds me how restorative justice has so many layers to it. And as we encounter it, it makes our definition a little deeper as we encounter it and as we utilize it in the work that we do. I'm so glad that Lynn mentioned Salbona. That's one of my favorite words. I see you. I'm also a movie buff, so anytime you want to get on my good side, invite me to go out to a movie. But in the movie where they say, I see you, that was Avatar. I had a senior moment right there for a minute. But Avatar, one of the things they say in the movie is, I see you. And that's what we have to do. We have to see each other. Sometimes we walk around with blinders on. And sometimes literally or figuratively, we're walking around with our heads down, especially our young people. And so how do we lift those heads and engage with each other? So the next question is all about how does restorative justice, and we kind of touched on it already, how does restorative justice play an intricate part in your work that you do? And I know for me, one of the best circles ever is when I have different individuals, different cultures, different ages, different backgrounds coming together in that space and learning from each other and getting to know each other. Because when we sit in circle, we find out we have so much more that we have a common, similar, than we do different. And so what does it look like if we could more times than often sit in circle to get to know each other? And so as I said, we do circles, we do training, we do workshops that help to educate. And so it's all about, it's the different layers. When you think about restorative justice, people always want to go to circles. Oh yeah, it's a circle. Restorative justice, circle. But there's so much more to it. It's conflict resolution. It's restorative conversations. It's getting those peer panels together so that peers can work together to resolve issues. So taking the time to learn more about the practices is so important in the work that I do. So how does it play an intricate role in what you do?
So in the work that I do, even when I'm in trainings, I tell people, first of all, you have to understand that restorative justice is not a program. Restorative justice is a lifestyle. And because restorative justice is my lifestyle, everything that I do is a restorative situation. Whether I'm in the pulpit preaching, or I'm in Springfield or in DC speaking to a politician, I am always in the process, if you will, of being restorative. Because if building relationships is the basis of restorative justice, I'm always building relationships. I'm always having a restorative conversation. So building and making those connections is my lifestyle. Restorative justice is my lifestyle. So it does not matter who I'm talking to or where I am. It's restorative for me because I see you. I see your humanity. And I am because you are. So every day, even now, I'm in a restorative situation. Even now. Because you all are getting to know me, hearing me as I talk. We are building relationship right now. So that's how it's intricate in my work.
I want to acknowledge that we are a delegate agency in the Chicago Department of Public Health, Office of Violence Prevention and Behavioral Health. So again, we are promoting the use of restorative practices, restorative justice practices throughout the city, but mainly on the west side. And we weave restorative justice into everything we do. We have some after-school matters programs. We have our peer-to-peer peacemakers program, an introduction to peer-to-peer peacemakers. Ms. Lynn is our instructor for that program. It's an after-school matters program. And these young people are being trained to conduct circles. They're being trained to address social justice issues. The younger ones, 14 and 15-year-olds, and we will be doing these programs this summer, and we do it throughout the year. They're going to be introduced to restorative justice. We have a program called Color Girls Are Cover Girls. And you should, if you can sit in their circle, they have Girl Talk Tuesday. And Miss Patty over there is one of our instructors for that program. So even though it's a program where these girls are learning to use creative writing to deal with issues as teenagers in the inner city, they love Girl Talk Tuesday because that's their circle. That's their time to build relationships. And they have been building relationships. They left the program, and some of the people they built relationships with, they're best friends to this day. We have one girl who just graduated from college. She took the whole idea with, building relationships, and she ended up with a fellowship to do that at her college. We have our Urban Sun Speak Life program for our teen boys. Every Tuesday they have Brother to Brother. And Mr. Fahim is there with them to help conduct those circles. And these guys are building relationships together, and guess what? They get a chance to cry together. Because see, sometimes we make it seem like boys don't hurt, like men don't hurt. They're not supposed to cry. But when you got a boy to come to your program and say, my brother got killed last night. I saw him get killed last night. But he came to Brother to Brother. He came to Urban Sun Speak Life because he know that's his safe place. That's his safe space, and he could come there and he could talk about it. We've done circles with the police in the community. We've done circles in people's backyards and people in the vacant lots on the block. We couldn't find a lot, so we just sat on the block. We've done circles with the young ones from pre-K through high school. When you got a second grader checking in and you say, how you feeling today? Check in with how you feeling today. And the second grader says, I'm stressed. You stressed? You in the second grade. Now, of course, I didn't say that out loud, but that's what I'm thinking in my head. What you got to be stressed about? But thank God she had the opportunity to check in. Because you know what she said? She said, I'm stressed. I said, well, why are you feeling stressed? She said, because my grandma was in an accident. So we're doing it in the schools. We're doing it with the block clubs. We're doing it with the healing circles. These families who've lost their loved ones to gun violence and just had other losses, coming together for collective healing. So we're doing it wherever there's space to go and create those safe spaces, to build those relationships. And so people would know I'm not alone. I got my safe space and my safe place. That's where I can come and I can heal and I can express.
So at Westside Rising, we started in a very small room with about 16 people. We grew quickly on the west side. This was very pre-collective work on the West Side, pre-West Side appreciation, and my desire, I'm from the West Side. I am a West Sider. Okay, wait, hold on. I am a West Sider, and I did this work on the South Side, on the North Side, all over the world, and I'm like, man, I come to the West Side, and there was things that were not accessible to us, that were so accessible to everybody else. We did an environmental scan talking about asking people what they wanted. What they wanted to do was be able to trust their public officials and trust one another to work with each other. They wanted to be able to have leadership development, fellowship opportunity, capacity building opportunities. And one of the major things people wanted was equitable resources for the West Side. Anybody from the West Side know that Roosevelt Road been Roosevelt Road for the last 50 years, right? Chicago Avenue, no, let's talk about, is that Laramie? Laramie. From North Avenue to 290, been Laramie, from North Avenue to 290. Anybody know the pink and white house? Yeah. Did y'all ride by that now? It ain't pink and white no more, right? So we brought people together to talk about this, like what's happening over here and why aren't we our own remedy? We are our own remedy, our own medicine. We begin to work together with different agencies, partner with different agencies, many of whom have now grown into their own entities, into their own organizations and doing their own things to help people recognize the power on the inside of them. We have power. We have power, but we continue to sit around and we sit around and wait for permission to move, to develop, to do something. We the ones that got the power. We are the answers. We are the answers to the questions that they continue to ask. But what's happening is people are coming into our communities, laying the solutions on top of us like we don't exist and not inquiring of the people. So we go straight to the people. We take it to the streets. We boots on the ground. I came with my shoes on today, but baby, I had my gym shoes on this morning. We take it to the streets. We go out. We talk to people about what they want to see in their community. What's your idea? And we challenge them. We provide them with the community organizing training so you can hold your space in your community. You don't have to sit down and shut up and wait for somebody else to tell you what's best for you. We don't have to do that. So we provide all that, and every day we do this it is restorative justice. We have to heal ourselves in our community. We have to restore ourselves in our community. And it don't come easy. It's not easy. So now we're in the process of helping people push past their own internal fear of losing what they feel that they have right now. So we can advocate and we can be in people's faces saying, yes, this is great, but is it going to benefit the people here? Is it going to benefit the people in the community? So we have power. We build power. We build leaders, and we do it with young people. We do it with organizations, and we do it across the West Side of Chicago, and we do trainings all the time, capacity building trainings. But anytime you want to see somebody out down the field, we the ones, we get out there and get it done with young people, with older people. We are very intergenerational, but we have to always remember that we have the power on the inside of us. And we don't have to wait for nobody to tell us to use it.
That's right, we have the power. I love that, yeah.
So, I'm trained in several things. I was trained by Ms. Edwina for the restorative justice practices, but I've also been trained through Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation to do racial healing circles. But I've been keeping circles for about 25 years, and I started as a co-founder for a women's circle, Sisters Healing and Focusing Energy, because one thing is people of color, we should not be trying to heal in isolation. because we don't hurt in isolation. When things happen in our community, we're impacted by that, right? Whether you see it on the news, whether you hear it, or whether somebody share it with you, that's why you have to listen with your heart. Because I can't have, even hearing this story what Miss Ruby just told about this 2-year-old baby, second grader saying she was stressed, that touched my heart. That's what I heard it with. I heard it with my heart. And that's a very big part of the restorative justice work, right? But I also realized for me, it's about advocacy. So in my role as organizer for Austin Coming Together, we are working on and have been working on trying to get a restorative justice court in Austin, right? So we have one in Lawndale, we have one in Avondale, we have one in South Village, one in Inglewood. I came into this work and, that's what they were, talking about and working on. And I'm like full steam ahead trying to figure out, how are we going to get a court in Austin? And it's a lot of red tape, it's a lot of stuff that goes on with it. But recently I was at a meeting, Tara Stamp's birthday celebration, and Judge Evans was there, Chief Judge Evans was there, and we had this we need to get in touch with the judge, we need to talk to the judge, we need to find out what's going on. And so I couldn't wait for him to finish his speech or whatever he was doing, because I had to make a beeline for him. I'm learning how to work the rooms. I'm normally, and people don't believe this, I'm actually an introvert. I just always end up in extroverted spaces, because I would not have said anything to him other than the fact that I want to talk about why we don't have a court in Austin and how we can possibly get a court in Austin. So part of the restorative justice work for me is advocacy. Even in our role as district counselors, this is one of the things it says in our ordinance that we are supposed to be creating restorative justice spaces. And again, it's about relationships. How can we form better relationships with our policing system, right? It's like, and it's hard. I don't even want to say it's hard. It is extremely hard when you're trying to do this with one of the most hated professions in America. Once upon a time, it was a noble profession, but now, and it's still a noble profession, but it's also a very hated profession. And one of our tasks is to create these relationships. And so that is a restorative, that's going to take that restoration also. That's going to take listening to both sides. It also takes having those hard conversations, right? It's going to take that sitting in that seat and listening, even for police officers, actually listening to community members tell you what they've experienced, and then you not get defensive about it. You're not jump to that blue side of yourself, but see the humanity in this person that is telling you that this is what happened to me, this is how it happened, this is who did this to me, and then, feeling some sense of responsibility for that, of feeling this sense of, now that has happened, what can we do in this moment? And I think that's what restorative justice is also, getting to that point, well, because this has happened now, because we don't want it to continue to happen, and so what can we do in this moment to repair this, or to make sure that it doesn't happen again? So that's how I look at the restorative justice work for myself, that for me, a lot of it is advocacy, like advocating for these, for these things to happen. And, and if we don't get the court in Austin, we are having conversations around what can we create in Austin that could, kind of become that second nature thing that we can do, because if we have some of the highest numbers of crime, and especially amongst our young people, 18 to 24, but you're telling us we don't deserve a court in our community. So yeah, we're still trying to get to that conversation, but the restorative justice part for me is the advocacy, being that voice and keep, pushing them buttons and doing all that stuff, getting on their nerve, like, oh, here she come again. Y'all know what I want, so yeah, give it to me and I'll leave y'all alone.
I love my sister's spirit, so we spent months, weeks, trying to reach Judge Evans. Calling, tapping people, do you know, can we get? And so I'm sitting back relaxing. I think I was watching a movie or something, and Arewa sends me this picture. It's Arewa standing with Judge Evans, this big old smile on her face. And I said, look at my sister. She done made it happen. Oh my goodness. One other thing I wanted to mention about here at Bill, we do have a youth council, so it's youth leaders, There's males and females together learning about restorative justice, learning about conflict resolution. And so we profess to be a restorative justice campus. And so we do try to practice it throughout the organization in how we engage with our young people, but also how we engage with each other. So this next question is about engaging with each other. So they always saying women don't get along. They always fussing, they always snapping at each other, they always pulling each other down. That's not true. Okay, look at us, these beautiful ladies up here. Thank you. We have worked together in some form or fashion throughout the work that we do, and we do it collectively. I was sharing with someone earlier, one of my favorite meetings to go to once a month is the 15th District Faith Base. It's such a great time of coming together, networking, updating each other. And so this question to you ladies, we know that we need to stop operating in silos. Silos is not going to get us the progress that we need to see. And so one of the things that was really great to witness is when they were dealing with the migrant situation and what to do and scratching their heads, the faith base and the CBOs finally said, let's come together. We can come together and come up with some answers and resolve. So my question to you ladies is, how can each of your organizations or businesses work collectively or collaboratively with each other? And it's not just with us on this stage. How have you been able to work with businesses or other CBOs or faith-based community? How have you been able to bridge the gap and working together? And as I mentioned, going to that faith-based meeting once a month, going to coalition meetings is how I bridge the gap. And I'm going to say something. I don't want y'all to throw nothing at me. I don't want no chairs to come swinging up here. I live on the south side, y'all. South side. But I've been working on the west side.
Right now.
I've been working on the west side for about 7 or 8 years now, and I have truly fallen in love with the west side. And what it took was for me to be consistent, to continue to show up at the coalition meetings, to be at the different resource fairs, to meet these. And Lynn was one of the first connections I made. And how did I make that connection? Michelle Day, right there. She said, you gotta connect. You gotta connect with Lynn. You wanna work on the west side, you're going to work with restorative justice, you gotta connect with Lynn. And so it's all about how do we collaborate with each other and work together across different barriers, across different traditions, across different faiths, and across different cultures. So whoever want to answer first, you ready, Arewa?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. But we go back to relationships. And I think that's how we initially end up in those silos. It's one, because we don't want to have relationships with X, Y, Z people for whatever the reason is, and I don't even know how to say this, or either it's the leadership, or, we don't want to, what my pastor said about everybody can't be the big chief or whatever, sometimes you have to follow leadership, right? Sometimes you have to follow good leadership in order to be a good leader. And I think people struggle with that as well. But the beautiful thing about working with Austin Coming Together is we are a community convener. So we partner with over 80 organizations in the Austin community. So there is no working in silos for us. And we understand there's always strength in numbers. And I think until we get to that part and we understand that part, I think people have a tendency to, something my father taught me, he said, you as I started working, he said, because I quit jobs a lot. When I didn't like them, I quit them. But my father told me, he said, look, you're gonna have to learn how to work with the best people under the worst circumstances, and and the worst people under the best circumstances. And we can't always get to that part either. One, because of our personalities, things become personal, you know. Work can't always be personal. Sometimes it really has to be professional. You know what I'm saying? You really have to kind of set those things aside to get something done. And I see people do it all the time. They can hate each other's guts. But when they have a mission, when they have something that they're trying to accomplish and do, they will put all that pettiness aside and they will get that thing done. And that's what we have to learn how to do, to come out of those silos. But it can be hard sometimes at the same time. But it's a necessity. And faith-based is a perfect prime example of people coming out of those silos, coming into that space to do work together, to learn together, to learn from one another, to build on people's work. You know, we have to learn how to do that. The big eyes and the little U's, that's what it was, you know, the big eyes and the little U's. But to work collectively. To me, when you say you, because even in Austin, you can still have organizations and they're doing a lot of the same work, but they won't work together to amplify that work, you know, for whatever reason, whether it's funding, whether it's leadership, whether it's white people, I don't know, regardless of what it is. These are things that people say, we don't want to do that because it's this, and we don't want to do it because it's that. Well, I just want to get the job done. Like, I want to get it done. Because it ain't even about me. If I'm really saying I love my people and I want the best for my people, and sometimes we have to, and I know Shirley Chisholm said we should never compromise, and I love her with my whole heart, but I think when you're working with people, sometimes there has to be some compromise. But can I sleep with myself? Like, can I make that compromise, and can I sleep with myself after I make it? So, yeah, I think it all comes down to building relationships. Sometimes even with people on the other side, like for instance, there's a city lawyer who I never see eye to eye with on anything, except this one thing came up, and I was like, oh, we have a common ground. We see, now we're ready to have drinks with each other. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, so that now, you know, because I'm about building relationships, and that's how I get a lot of work done, because I have relationships everywhere with so many people. So that's what it's about, especially when we're talking about restorative justice. It is, I think Dan said it too, it's about relationships. What do your relationship life look like? You know what I'm saying? Mine is beautiful. So, yeah.
Whoever else wants to answer, we're going to take one more response and then we're going to ask the Lord.
For me, the work in being together and working with other organizations, other people, is part of restorative justice, right? It only made sense for me to partner with Taproots to do peer-to-peer peacemakers. It made sense. Miss Ruby and Taproots was already working with young people. She said, hey, Miss Lynn, we want to do this. After School Matters approached us about this, and we want to do this, and I think you'll be the person to bring it on. And it only makes sense. And to understand that we can't do this work alone. And working in restorative justice and in the school setting and the education system, I now have been blessed with the opportunity to work with McCormick Theological Seminary. Right? Dr. Stephanie Crumpton, who's in the back, is the head of the Trauma Healing Initiative. And it only made sense if we're talking about restorative justice and we're talking about in our faith communities and in education that we go from elementary to high school to higher ed. I couldn't do that alone. But I also know that being restorative and having restorative justice as my lifestyle, that I needed to partner with somebody. Now, me being an ordained minister, I had a little problem with seminaries, but, amen. But having a conversation with Dr. Crumpton and building a trusted relationship. And now we are in our third year. Oh, I done lost a year, y'all. It's been 4 years. Doing this work and teaching alongside her has been one of the most fulfilling things in my life. because I bring God into my practice. And it's about practicing your practice. If you believe in restorative justice and its practices, you have to practice your practice. You can't cuss the people out tonight and then tomorrow, come on, let's go to circle and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Help us, God. We have to practice our practice, and the best way to practice your practice is to practice your practice together.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your responses. And Vanessa, did you know I was going to call you? You did? Okay, thank you. I love you. I thank you. We in sync with each other. So we want to hear from you guys. Do you have any questions to this panelist, either about the work that they do, how we have collectively worked together, how do you cross barriers and cross lines? Because this is, for such a time as this, that's what it's going to take. We got to stop working in silos. We got to cross barriers. We got to connect, make relationships. And that's how we're going to do the work. Boots on the ground, boots on the ground. All right, we have a question.
Right here.
First, thank you for all the work that you all do. My question is, how do you keep the momentum going? So too often you have people in organizations or just people in general that say, oh, we want to accomplish this, we want to do this, oh, let's get together next week, have coffee and talk about this, and then it just kind of stops there. How do you keep the ball rolling? How do you get to the end goal?
So, just to talk about that, when you're bringing people together, Lord have mercy, it is always a challenge to bring people together. It's always a challenge to deal with different personalities, different backgrounds, different philosophies. We do it wearing red, we do it wearing blue, and we want to wear blue. Can we wear purple? You know. So what we do is we are constantly reaching out to people, and it's called, so our work is solidarity and social justice for systems change, and it's very, very grassroots, starting with people in the community, organizations in the communities, and different entities in the community. We have to reach out to people every single month, sometimes twice a month, update people about what's going on and what's the issues. But more importantly, I will say this, it's about relationships and building a reputation of trust. Because what's happening in our communities and with our people and in these systems, we don't trust nobody. We don't trust each other. We don't trust the system. We don't trust the politicians. Right them on the corner, we definitely don't trust them. So one thing I will say, we build a reputation of trust and integrity. So I have people say, oh, you work with everybody. Absolutely, we have to work with everybody, because if we have a disagreement, I might not agree with your approach. Baby, let's talk it out. If we can't talk it out, let's find that common thread and reach out to each other. Be transparent. How about that? Let's not lie to one another. Let's not keep the legs from each other. If we are going to move together, we gotta trust each other. We gotta move in strategy with a trusting, transparent, authentic relationship. And I know we struggle in that, but we've made it our culture in everything we do. We bring everybody to the table. Even people we don't like, we bring to the table. You might be cringing, but what we found is when we do that, we hold each other accountable. We come to the table, we have those difficult conversations. Well, you said that this was your position on this, and tomorrow you said something else. Now you're over there doing something different. We have to hold each other accountable to it, and I think a lot of that has been blurred a bit. And we shy away from the work that comes with it, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
one of the ways we keep the momentum going is we check in with each other. That's so important as a staff. We don't just go out and train people to become circle keepers. We don't go out and just conduct circles, but we have our circles too. So we check in with each other. We allow each other to express, to share, to dump. We heal together. We laugh together. We cry together. Fahim always says the first circle is with yourself. And I've heard other people say the same thing. Michelle, Nehemiah Trinity Rising, Vanessa, our first circles are with ourselves. So we keep that going. And then another way we keep the momentum going is we keep going out to where the need is. That's all, you just go where the people are. We go to where the need is, and if we can't go, we'll ask somebody else. We were asked to come out to the suburbs. I can't remember which one right now, but I was like, well, we can't make it, not because we didn't want to, but it was just harder for us to do it because of the distance. But I called the folks at Nehemiah Trinity Rising, and they made it. And again, that's all about not working in silos. If I can't do it, I know somebody who can. I'll refer you to the next person. So that's how we keep the momentum going. And just 2 words, better together. Better together.
Hi, I want to thank you for your work, and I'm just going to speak from the experience, and I'm going to say what some people are thinking. Dr. King basically said that when you find a cause that you're willing to die for, then you have your purpose. So the West Side is not short of resources in other domains, but when you look at the production, the product on the street, you know that a lot of either non-for-profits, no disrespect to Bill, it's a great facility. I'm sure there's a lot of funding, things of that nature got in the right space to build this particular structure and repurpose South Shore Bank. But what about the people that's been doing it a long time that cannot get the funding? So the question I ask is, if the funding was not the foundation, would you do the work? I said on the West Side, the product out there is indicative that there is still work that needs to be done. No disrespect to Bill, I don't know where you want me to start, but this facility is indicative that there's funding out here repurposing South Shore Bank. But being a born and raised West Side person my whole life, I see there's a lot of non-for-profits, things of that nature. It's great that you have facilities, things of that nature, but you live somewhere else, but we're still in the community. So my question is, if the funding was not your foundation, would you still be doing the work?
So, I want to say absolutely, without a doubt, what I'm doing is what I was placed in this earth realm to do. When I started this work, you all seen the honoree Jadine Chow. Jadine Chow was at Chicago Public Schools. She came to Chicago Public Schools when we were already fighting for restorative justice in schools. We created the first peace centers that they are now calling peace rooms and replicating throughout Chicago Public Schools. Right over here at Milton Brunson Math and Science Specialty School, right there on Central and Augusta, was the first peace center in the city of Chicago. Parents were trained to be the circle keepers. Parents did not get paid. When I was able to get some money, they got paid. When the money ran out, they still came every day. I cried every day because I'm like, y'all coming? They was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, we coming. This is our community. And when you take ownership of your community, principals and teachers come and go inside of our communities. But when I've been living in Austin since 1976. I came from Lawndale to Austin. I belong here. And there is nobody Thank you, Edwina, for coming over here. But there is nobody that can do for Austin like Austin can do for Austin. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the money for me.
It's the passion. It really is. It wasn't until I started doing the work that I'm doing now that my seminary, my work at DCFS, my being a teacher, my doing a cumulation of other things, it all melded together with the fact that I was a restorative justice practitioner. And so the passion is what keeps me going. And if the money wasn't there, I'm sure my passion would still fuel the fire for me to continue to do what I'm doing. I think our time is our time up? We got 5 minutes? 10 minutes? Okay. And somebody want to answer?
Yes, I am from the West Side. West Side. All you Southsiders, I am Southside bona fide, so I spent a couple of decades out there, so I'm Southside bona fide. But I am from the West Side. I am from North Lawndale and in Austin, because we went back and forth. Born in North Lawndale, when I started doing this type of work, I was often reminded that North Lawndale was the 9th poorest community in the country. As a young person, I really didn't understand what that meant. But as I got older, like, why did I have to be reminded of that every time I opened my mouth? Why did I have to be reminded of what we quote unquote was not? So when I had the opportunity to come back into my community, to my West Side, and do what I need to do, I did it for nothing. Not only did I do it for nothing, all of the people that joined me, we started with like 16 people, 17 people, and grew to 70 people, 80 people. They did it for nothing. For years, it grew organically out of the care and the need for us as West Siders, as people, as individuals with human rights and regular rights, to begin to stand up and speak for ourselves and not just let anything happen to us in our community. So when I say I came back and I don't get paid, I do this because I was made to do this. I tried to get away from it. How about that? It's hard work. It's stuff that I have you on your knees crying and praying. But when you got people that you can touch and that you can talk to, that you connect with, that you can pool resources to, it makes it possible because we don't get bill money. How about that? And yes, I do. I talk about it to everybody. I talk about it to the funders. I talk about it to individual people about the inequity of distribution of resources that happens on the west side of Chicago. But when we come together in a solidarity, a place of solidarity, when we can trust each other and work together, that's when we'll get what we that's due us. That's when our reparations will come. That's when our restorative justice will come, because it's not just about restoring, it's about justice. It's about true justice. And let me stop, because some of this stuff that go on in our community is not justice. And I don't just call to the politicians, I don't just call to the people running stuff, I call to us. Because if we lay down and let it happen, we are a part of it too. So let's do some real restorative justice, work on ourselves, collectively work together, because we all have it in us to improve ourselves and our families and our lives. But we don't have to deny that. We don't have to deny that. And guess what? It is money for us to do it too. So never.
I thank you for that question, sister. I thank you for that. And I just want to say this, because I too put it out there in the atmosphere. You know, yes, I would do it with no money, and sometimes I do it with no money. But when the money is available, when it's available, stop nickel and diming the smaller organizations and people like myself. When the millions come down, because believe you me, restorative justice is a buzzword right now, and have been for a few years. done called, and I don't mean no disrespect to Bill, I don't. Ain't no disrespect to nobody. But because they already big, they gonna call them, but they not gonna call Taproots. So yeah, I'm putting it out there to the atmosphere, and I say it all the time. When the money comes, think about the people who are not billed, who are not Westside Health Authority, that already have $1 million budgets. Ms. Ruby is all the time talking about, oh, we got to get this grant done. We got to do this, do this for the city of Chicago, for this and that. There are others out here that there needs to be equitable distribution of the resource. Okay,
I just want to add, when there is money to be distributed, I do call one of these individuals and see, can you work alongside me to help me do this? So that's what it is. It's about those relationships that you can reach out to and say, I need some help doing this. We have another question.
Nice way to shut it down, probably.
Hi, my name is Madeline, and I'm using the pronouns. My question came up in the last session I went to, and it's kind of big, so we might not have time to really get into it, but something we talked about that I always find in restorative justice spaces is this conflict between accountability and personal healing, and like to what extent can we challenge people to like do work that needs to be done, and when do we need to take care of ourselves? Somebody in my last session said, I'm going to keep pushing and I'm going to keep trying to make the change, and at what point do I say, like, that's all I can take or that's enough? And so I'm curious about that tension that I see in restorative justice about, like, when do we ask people and call them in, and when do we stop giving them chances? When do we find that balance between making sure that we're taking care of ourselves and taking care of our community?
I know part of that was accountability. How do you hold others accountable? How do you also take care of yourself in the processes of self-care? And it's so interesting that you asked this question. I was just talking with a colleague about how do we help our young people become accountable. When we do training, when I do my restorative justice training, there's a video I show on transformative justice. And in this video, they talk about how you teach your young people, how you teach your youth to be accountable for what they've done. You still love them. You still care for them. You don't throw them away just because they made a mistake. You do hold them accountable and you let them know you did something wrong, but at the same time, you don't throw them away. The other piece about the self-care, and I'm guilty, I don't do enough self-care, but we do need to take, because the work is hard. So what is it that you like to do? I used to like to draw, and I used to like to color. So I do have a coloring book at my desk. And so I'm going to be more intentional about pulling my coloring book down and just coloring, when I can. But being mindful, when you leave work, you leave work. You have to leave it at the door. You cannot take it home with you. And sometimes it's hard because it tugs at your heart, especially some of the things you hear that's going on in the community. And so you do have to leave the work, but you also find a way to store or restore yourself. That's a part of restorative justice. How do I restore myself so that I can do the work the next day?
No, when you said you were guilty, I was like, I'm guilty too, and I think, that's another black woman trope, where we super women and we try to do it all, we carry the world on our shoulders. So self-care is very important, but it's also like a thought process. Sometimes I have to remind to take care of myself because I'm so busy trying to do for so many others, whether it's my family, whether it's my community. But also for me, this ain't work, right? So I guess if I looked at it as work, then I would be feeling some kind of way, but this is an extension of my life, right? Because I work in my community, you know, I work amongst my people, so it comes with something else. And in terms of holding others accountable, and I think it goes back to the Fahim about that circle of me, like, am I accountable? Like, am I being accountable? Then I'm setting an expectation for you, so, right? So I ain't in the business of making people do nothing. I'm just not. I'm not gonna fight with people about it. I'm gonna ebb and flow, and I'm gonna let it happen as organically as it needs to happen because God is always on my side anyway. So whether people want it to or not, it's gonna come to fruition and it's gonna happen. At work, because this new culture, am I Gen Z? I'm a slash on Boomer and Z. But my work ethic is different. I'm like more paper. I'm more, don't sit across the room from me and send me an email like we in the same room. So you can't just turn around and say what you need to say. You're gonna send me an email, then you're gonna send me 3 chats in the email. So my work style is, the work culture is different for me. So I have to take moments at work to kind of tap out. Like I got this deck of cards. It's called the rest deck. It's called removing myself from the grind culture. You know, we have this grind culture now. We want to do so much of me. So sometimes I have to kind of remove myself from that. I'll take me a 10, 15-minute meditation. I have a coloring book at my desk. I use these same tools that I try to give other people. I have to remember to use them for myself. I leave, I sit in the office. Some days I walk, come over here to Bill and sit in y'all little garden and take me a breather. So we definitely have to take care of ourselves because, we ain't taking care of self, it's going to be very apparent to other people. So that's all I can say. But in terms of holding people accountable, and then what are we trying to hold them accountable for? Like, is that the measure we need, or is it about being responsible, or is it about teaching? I like to teach young people about consequences. Before I want to get to telling them about being accountable, I want to teach them that you make a good decision, you're going to get some good responses. You make a bad decision, you're going to get some responses that you're not going to be able to deal with. So I don't know if you're contextually talking about young people or working with young people, but that's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, so take care of self first. Do you care about what you do? Do you love what you do? Or we still doing some things for money, for paychecks? That never worked for me. I wish it did. I've given away so much stuff for free 1,000. As district counselors, we get a $500 a month stipend, and we do way, way more work. We're trying to build something now. We're giving away intellectual property. We're doing everything for $500, and for the 15th district, we feed our community members with that. We spend that money like nothing. And for the consent decree work I do, I've been doing that for almost 10 years, $0. And the same thing, the city, we got people sit on the other side of us in the city that make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we're making $0. So, but that's because I'm passionate about my people and I love what I do. So, and there you go.
Last thing is, when you're doing this work can be stressful. It could be a lot of pressure, and for one, I almost worked myself into my grave, literally. So it made me take a step back to look at how I was processing. One thing I did learn was to breathe, make sure you take deep breaths. The second thing I did learn was that you can't care for someone more than they care for themselves. You can offer options and opportunities, great. What I did learn more than anything that has really shifted how I work is boundaries.